Okay, we are live now.
This meeting is being recorded.
Good evening, everyone. We are back again with our Coffee with Counselors session. And today we are going to talk about childhood innocence leading to being gullible adults. This is a fact that innocence intact within ourselves make us gullible adults sometimes. And I won't take much time and introduce our panel today to all of you. We have with us Dr. Madhumati Singh. She is a child psychologist with an extensive and rich experience in the field. She is also the director at Fairgaze. For a holistic approach to child welfare, Dr. Madhumati has the difficult job of trying to help young parents interpret the words and actions of their children and to get insights into their mental, psychological, and skill makeup. The job requires a bandwidth larger than one can afford and tight leash the training in clinical psychology. And we also have with us Mrs. Pooja Kapoor from La Martiniers Girls College. She is a double postgraduate, MEd in Masters in Psychology. She has more than 15 years of experience in the field of education. She started her teaching career with La Martiniers Girls College, Lucknow, as a teaching assistant. And her 3 years stay in the UK exposed her to the world of special education. Welcome to both of you, ma'am, Dr. Madhumati and Mrs. Pooja Kapoor.
Thank you. Thank you, Devanshi.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I would like now request Madhumati ma'am to please start the session.
Thank you. Good evening, Fairgaze and the entire audience of Fairgaze. Fairgaze being one of the biggest platform for K-12 community, where the child is the center, and on the right are parents, and on the left is the school community. In the center is the child. And thus we, yet one more evening, have come together with coffee with the counselors. And each time we try and pick up topics pertaining to our center, that is the child. What are the different elements the child is made of? How we as a community can help, assist, first understand ourselves, and then be able to accelerate their development in a holistic way. So yes, one more time, welcome the entire audience out there. Pooja, it's good to share the forum with you. We'd love to have, more of, like we say, two heads get together to make it 22. So yes, great to have you here on Fairgaze platform.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Great. So today's topic, as we know, and very interestingly so, is that childhood innocence leading to being gullible adults. So, when we say what exactly is gullibility? Gullibility is believing and trusting people too easily, and therefore easily tricked. Too easily. There are these words, tricky words, watch. So we'll try and say, okay, too easily. So easily, so they are easily deceived or duped. They tend to believe in stories. Everything that they read in tabloid newspapers, every single item, becomes reality. And these are the few features of who is a gullible person. So gullibility, I think I read through the net, and of course I thought I'd share this one. There is this Nobel Prize winner site, perhaps best explained. What exactly are we looking at in terms of gullibility? Is it a good thing or not a good thing? So according to Dr. Daniel, what he says is gullibility occurs because we have evolved to deal with basically two fundamental but different systems. Fundamentally different, like Pooja and I were talking earlier. It's intrinsic and inherent in us to believe because of the very fact that we want to adhere to a group, a small group. We want to feel safe. We want to simplify matters. Is everything is going to go through us, only through us, we'll have to do a lot of screening, a lot of work. So somebody else has done it, say, you believe it, I believe it too. So one is the fundamental, that is what according to him, he says is system one. Now the system one has few components, which means thinking fast. It's not, you don't mull over it too long. It's like a quick, fast thinking. It's automatic. That means the sense of believing is automatic because you have a smaller group. It is intuitive. It is also intuitive. And it promotes accepting anecdotal and personal information and time. So it's also uncritical. Now that's system one. Now, if I were to explain to you what exactly system one is, so he's done the evolutionary work. We talk of when we started to evolve as humans, we were all in smaller packs and there were predictable kind of behaviors, be it the men and women. Of course, we'll talk about that later. There's research to show that women are more gullible. Why are they more gullible is exactly, maybe I can speak about it right now, is that in our evolutionary stage, you know, the women were in the house, in the cave, picking berries, picking up some, there were little things that they were exposed to, which means a little more abstract things. Whereas what were the men doing? They were doing the hunting. It was to the point. It is target, here, hunt and come back. So what happens is that within these two activities, which one of them is more abstract? For example, the women out there will be checking out each other's beads. You know, they'll be trying and finding out how is the child doing. So there is more of abstract and more of multiple interactions that the women go through. So evolutionary stages, so is what Dr. Kahneman was talking about, the system one. Up to here, the story sounds nice, that yeah, gullibility is okay, it works in our favor because we have a smaller group and we want to be part of the pack. So we go with what others say and just intuitively, instinctively follow it through. Now, human beings, like Pooja also mentioned, is intrinsically gullible species. So do we really want to be gullible? So I was talking about the system two. Okay, what are the system two? System one is what I said was instinctive. It is not critical. And system two is perhaps the antidote of gullibility. System two comes about in the modernization of our civilization, our evolution. As our systems became more complex, our social interactions became more multifaceted, the system two came about. And it is a recent, I would say, human achievement being that these tools were used to be more effective. The reason is that it is slow and it is analytical, it is rational and effortful through evaluation of incoming information. Now you'll say, when did that happen? A smaller group, it expanded. So for example, when we talk of, now we have ethnicities, we have cultures, we have education, we have level of education, level of economic development, different states. So we're looking at the whole society expanding in a very multiple way, is where the group and the group dynamics become more complex. Thus also complex information. It's no more hunting and no more just cooking the meat and going out to sleep and making sure you're safe from wild animals. Now the world has become much more wider. The wild animals don't look the wild animals of the species, what we call as animals. There are other predators, as I'm sure you all are aware of. We're looking at fraud, we're looking at conmen, we're looking at psychopathic personalities, sexual deviant people, antisocial terrorists, and we're looking at furthermore aberrations in the human psyche. And thus comes about the system two. So like I said, the system two is more of an antidote of being gullible. So now, I was just thinking right in the beginning, I said, let's just start with system one and two. Let's talk of home now. Let's talk of our own homes. We're talking of the present. Is why did, I think of this topic to take up, is because on one hand, we do want to believe that this is a value that we want to pass on to our kids, saying that it's good to, trust, it's good to believe, it's good to believe, and it's good to have that faith. Are we really, really able to do that? Or do you really think it's a great idea? Is it a great idea? Don't we all say when our kids go out, the teenagers, don't talk to strangers, don't take anything from strangers, and we have a lot of do's and don'ts. So on one hand, the child is safe at home, and on the other hand, is the child also safe at home? For a simple reason. Now I started, the first core point of today's topic is what I said, my core point is at home, in our own homes, we ourselves promote gullibility. And the other side of it, like we're saying, cynical, the gullibility and the cynical part of the child. How do we do that? I think we'll not make it so academic. There are academic stuff, but I'll try and simplify it. Is that the ability for the child to ask questions is the gullibility quotient. Please look back. There are parents sitting out there. There are the grandparents. There are adults who have children at home. Do we promote questions? Do we promote the kids' ability to ask questions in our culture, in any culture, particularly in the Indian system? The moment you stop that process of the child questioning, you are in the process of making the child gullible. You say, really, is that connected? Yeah, it is very much connected. A simple reason being, I don't want you to take up the music class that your friend is taking up. A parent says to the child. The child says, okay, but why? The parent says, because I say so. It's just the decision taken. I say so. I know more. I'm your parent, and you just have to do what I have to tell you to do. I know better what is good for you. You've stopped that process of questioning. In a way, the child, of course, we should trust our parents, but we also know, please understand, it's the sexual harassment, the domestic violence that happen in our own homes, in our own. So we are not talking of, hey, I'm a special parent, I can be trusted. We are not talking of one parent here. We're talking of a norm, a system. Apply to you as that one mother out there or the dad out there, but there are many others who are not. So the question and the whole point of today's talk, and I would say that's a center point. It's like the axis or the center is the ability for the child to question, is where you are going to prepare the child for future being smart, being questioned. When you question, like I said, system two is more rational. They do question. What is system two? It is effortful. You put efforts into that particular system. So the more you explain to your child, even if she or he questions you, you are setting a pattern to a questioning mind. A questioning mind is a rational mind. They are going to be more prepared for this unpredictable world than otherwise. So also, I would say there are 2-3 things that parents land up doing. There's a case I would like to quickly talk about. Here's this teenager who is having a love hate relationship with the mother. Mother is very caring, everything taken care of. So the mother at times lands up saying 2 conflicting points to the girl. One is, this world is a beautiful place. There are so many good people on this planet, and world is very good. It's very good place to be in. The flip side, depending on the mother's state of mind, or it could be mood, or maybe she has some neurotic elements. We don't know about the clinical part. But on the other hand, she says, life is a struggle. Life is a big struggle. Life is not easy. There are all kinds of people on this planet. So the child is confused. Now, my request to you, let's not give sweeping that once in a while. We can't be very careful of what we're saying every time. But if we say something once, it's not important. It's like come and go. But what are we paying importance to? Are we paying importance to the external factors that bring about the influences on the child? That's a problem. But if we are saying, you know what, irrespective of the good and bad, I trust your judgment. You're a smart kid. You'll figure it out. Statements which are empowering is what also helps in the child feeling confident of themselves. Feelings. So it's not what is outside, it is what they have within their skills to be able to cope better, to be able to even be, like I said, less gullible. So these are the basic 2 points that I thought I'll quickly come up with. Of course, Pooja will have many more. So there's another research saying that sometimes even moods. So we're looking at when does a person, have you noticed it happens with all of us? You know, there are times we tend to just blindly say, okay, fine, that's okay. Maybe most probably gullible people, most probably, especially our adults we're talking of, may be having some elements of depressive personality, some elements of negative thinking. So those elements of a depressive personality will be there. Why? Because the moods. You know, the person says, "I never thought about it. It didn't occur. I didn't even think about it. I didn't bother." You know, there was a package, and somebody called up and said, "You have these holiday packages. You know, signed up, given the thing." You'd have not. You're not questioning. So I didn't feel like, now this person says, I didn't feel like questioning. I just went ahead with it. So somewhere people who are gullible, that's another third element. What I thought is that there may be some element of depressive positions in a person who tends to does that. You know, where have you talked of, you know, relationships going bad? You know, it's like a very trusting situation, got stuck with a wrong person, and you know, there's a pattern about this. Woman says, I have a pattern about it. I have similar experiences with many people, and it's the same pattern. When you look very carefully, there were depressive elements where the person does not have a proactive stand towards life. Proactive would mean the ability to look at things holistically, question, double check. So depressive elements could be another thing. Okay. Also, I feel that gullibility, when we're talking about, so this when I talk about the important element of the moods, positive mood. So which we're looking at positive mood, which means a proactive mood. It facilitates system 1, and negative facilitates system 2. Make sense? Because system 1 is simpler. System 1 of what I talked about are evolution. So positive would mean there is not much of variables to play around with, and the person is designated a particular fixed job. For example, the woman who's in the cave, who's cooking meat and picking berries, and you know, having a non-verbal communication with the other women, their roles are pretty much sorted, 3 or 4 things. She's not going to start questioning, you know, it's my time to turn to go and hunt. Why can't I hunt? The whole empowerment bit. So all of that. So the positive mood basically means predictable roles. That doesn't happen in the modern society. Of course, there are certain societies where things are still predictable, and we're looking at remote villages, or we're looking at certain tribal areas. So now, if somebody was to say, okay, what are the factors which go into a person being more gullible? As per some research, if you don't know 2 plus 2 adds up to 4, then you go to a shop and somebody's give person, you're not able to calculate that. So level of education, basic fundamental level of education is very important. Poor ability to think rationally and poor ability to think rationally. Rational thinking is dependent on objective information. And objective information comes from education. It comes from awareness. You know, for example, have you seen people who may not be so well read, but they do read their daily newspaper? Daily newspaper is basic, but they read it end to end. They do read. which means that they are far more aware. They may not be able to come up with research papers and fabulous, talk on any forum, but they for themselves. So they become more and more rational because they collect information from various sources, and they are able to process it they're able to process because they have information. And how much of time do we have? Yeah, I have another 5 minutes. So I'll quickly, because I don't want to take Pooja's time. And so we're looking at lack of education, poor ability to think rationally, and massive amount of doubtful and manipulative information. Now, massive amount of doubtful. When do we start doubting? We start doubting when we don't have a complete set of processes from start 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And okay, now we'll talk of simply very quick 6 points, and then I'll pass on the rest of it to Pooja. I was thinking of what are the things, how we can be less gullible. Part of it we have spoken about. How can individuals avoid visuals now, looking at the kid who is going to grow up, so is let them question, answer. I remember there was a case where a teenager's uncle was flying. He's very close to him, teenager. And as the uncle was about to board the flight, the teenager, in a very nervous way, says to the mother, I hope the flight won't crash. Now, that was a completely, there was a whack on his head and shut up and keep quiet, enough. This kid later on had a lot, not because of this one episode. These are manifestations of basically, like we say, the attachment theory. That's one. He became more and more anxious, not because of that one thing, but I'm talking about his persona. Now, this example basically says that if the kid, there is a reason. Why would the kid say that? What will be your answer? It'll neither be the whack. Just open Google and say percentage. Okay, there is 1.1% that flights crash. What if it is uncles? Let's hope it doesn't happen. And why do you feel like that? So there's attachment. He cries and he says, I wish I had more time with him. I want to live with him. So there was a lot of attachment issues which were later on taken up. How can individuals avoid being gullible? I know it's going to sound very, if you have a paper pen, guys, please just write it down. It'll help. I know it's going to be very funny, okay? But please understand this is applicable to all of us. The first point is trust no one. Not even your parents. Not even your best friend, not even your teacher. Trust no one. I know, very cynical starter. Trust no one. In other words, to simplify this, trust no one means blindly trust no one on sentences. That's the first point. We'll not go in the details of it because I've already explained it to you. That trusting how much to trust, as we all know, the sexual exploitation, sexual violence, rapes and molestation happens. Majority of them are relatives, friends, people known. So please take this point seriously. Trust no one. It also applies to you all kids out there who are watching. Question, ask, be aware. Trust no one. That's the meaning of it. Second one, educate, read. Educate, read. Do all of you kids out there, do you know what is the child helpline? All you mothers out there, do you know what are the women helpline? They are there in my phone. I should have actually kept it here for me to share it with you guys. Maybe Devanshi can do that later on. Give it in our Fair Gaze, the helpline. Are we aware? So put it on your phone, use it, read about stuff. Third point, always ask for clarity, ask questions. Parents, this is for you too. Be open to answering. When your kids answer you, ask you, doesn't mean they are questioning your authority. They are simply getting information and they will process it in their own way. You've brought up confident, good kids who are capable of making judgments for themselves. So don't, underestimate the strength of your kids. Be open to answering questions that they ask. Always ask for clarity, ask questions. Separated parents, the child will ask one of the parent, what happened? Why did you people split up? It's not your concern. You don't need to know. Which age the kid is. The kid is 6 years old, 6-year-old understands. What will you say to a 6-year-old? Is that we were two different people. We do have commitments, but two people, when they don't get along, then they have differences. 6-year-old, a teenager. We are two different people. Certain things did not gel. So you cannot afford to answer. Parents out there, don't ask. It's not your concern. You don't know. You don't need to know. Please don't do that. The more you do that, you are bringing about more gullibility for the kids. Be more skeptical. Yeah, I wish I wish my mother had said that to me earlier. I do look at stuff, even when I was doing the article. We do relate a lot of things, how gullible we were, we were, maybe we still are. So ask, be more skeptical. Don't just take things on face value. Ask, double check from other people. Figure out, there are a lot of marriages where arranged marriages, things are taken on face value and then they come to know this is not, he's not studied till this much. This is not the family system they were in. What was the rush? Haste makes waste. So yeah, be more skeptical is point number 4. Number 5, do not jump to conclusions. Don't be in a hurry. Yeah, in other words, very simply, kids who are generally in a hurry, youngsters who are impulsive. So your impulsive personality type, and impulsive personality type also brings about people who make hurried decisions. Don't be in a hurry. You've had a spat with somebody. Have you heard one of them say, I want answers just now? Just tell me right now. The right now says, no, I won't tell you right. And then there's more fight. Give time and say, okay, can we talk about this a couple of days later? So to conclusions. The 6th point, anything that's of course. Now it's really, is that how it is? Yes, it is. If there are, I do know of a case where there was scholarship offered for higher education and the entire family got in a big mess because it was a scam, a massive scam. And none of them read through it because they were in a rush. We said, really, why didn't they read through it? They were in a rush. Time was running out. They thought that if they take longer than what they are, then somebody else will take the seat. So sometimes, like we say, most of the times, haste makes waste. Please do not take things which are too good to be true. Also, last part of it all is that scientists have discovered, like any other personality trait and any other, when we talk of mental health and, the aspects of the mind, we do talk about the genetic predisposition. So it's as for some scientists, again, this is scientific evidence, that there is a part of the brain and that's, since I'm not a medical, so I've just written it out. It's ventromedial prefrontal cortex. Okay, it's VMPFC that controls beliefs and doubts. So damage to this, or the thinning this particular prefrontal cortex, scientists have found out that people who are more gullible, who tend to believe and very quickly, their VMPFC is damaged or it's too thinning out. They lose structural integrity and functionality. All of this happens also when we are aging. With aging people, you must have seen that the elderly tend to be a little more gullible because of this one, like we say, a scientific reason of why gullibility also a physiological element. Without developing a critical stance when learning, this is what we are talking about in terms of how to not be gullible. And let us start it from home, our own homes. With that, I pass on the rest of the stuff to Pooja. Over to you, Pooja.
All right. I was not able to unmute myself, I believe. Now, am I audible, clear and loud? Thank you, thank you, thank you. A wonderful insight into the topic by Dr. Singh, quite a few of which was matching with what I am supposed to discuss today. But my focus being working in a school would be more towards the childhood part of this topic, because this is where the problem lies. So I just want to begin with a simple story. I think everybody would have heard out, and I love stories, and I believe stories are the best way to teach. So I think everybody is aware of the story of the two cats and the monkey. So let's say the story narration begins, and there are two cats fighting over a piece of bread. They are quarreling, biting each other, scratching, and all this is being observed by a monkey on the tree. So the monkey comes down and offers help. And this story is being narrated in a classroom situation. So just imagine this is happening. So the monkey comes down and very politely offers to help. Say, I think you people are not able to decide amongst each other. And I think I can offer my help, my consultancy, and I'll do a fair job. At this point of time, if you will ask a child, what do you think of this monkey? I'm sure every child would say, he's a very kind fellow. He is giving off his time and he's offering to help. What a helpful fellow. But later, as the story unfolds, we come to know the reality of the monkey. That he was not a helpful, but a sly animal. He fooled both the cats and enjoyed the lion's share. Through stories, why I don't know, in our education system, I think especially in the kindergarten age and the toddler, or I should say the preparatory department, what we call in our school, stories are something which can leave an impact, which can give life lessons, which simple talking, or I should say preaching, is not going to help. So stories have importance not only in our culture, but I think cultures around the world to impart the reality of life. On that note, I want to begin my discussion, and I would like to take another very contemporary examples. We all are aware of the terrorist camps around the world. Now, who are the recruits? The recruits are mainly children. And they are brainwashed, trained into fidains, who are ready to even sacrifice something which is most precious, life. Isn't that not heights of gullibility? All around us, we keep seeing financial frauds happening, conmen, internet frauds, godmen fooling people in the name of religion, in the name of God. So examples of gullibility are all around us, but still we fall into trap of such people. The answer is not, according to me, in the adulthood, but the answer, actually the root of the problem is the childhood. A childhood whose innocence is not given the right direction can lead to gullible adults. Now, the problem with Indian culture is that innocence is celebrated. I don't know if you have come across this, but parents love to flaunt their Seedha Bacha. their bola bacha. They will even compare the siblings, saying, "Ye bada wala na bahut seedha hai, but ye chota wala bahut badmash hai." And this has happened in my home. I was the seedha one, and my sister was the badmash one. To the extent that my mother used to say, had she came in first in our life, we would have never had the second child. That was the extent. But later, I learned this very, very, difficult lesson of not trusting people quite late in life. And she became very street smart. Nobody had the courage to rag her in college, unlike me. So the problem lies in our homes. The problem also lies in our school. The teacher would always appreciate a seedha bacha, an innocent bacha, and the parents will take pride. Even teachers don't want children to question. It disturbs the harmony of the class. One starts questioning, it gives courage to the other to question. So what this Dr. Singh said very rightly, we discourage questioning at the root level, be it homes, be it schools. So according to me, the problem lies in our homes. If we stop celebrating this innocence and take it more into a realistic shape. I don't know if you have noticed this, but definitely happened with me. Earlier, TV was in one common room. Everybody used to sit together and watch TV. And if any kind of scene, romantic scene or intimate scene appeared on the television, my father would quickly change it to news channel. Now, we, like naive children, questioned him, why are you doing it? The movie is going on, please don't do, because one movie used to come, I think 2 movies used to come in a week. And he would have this very, very, now I realize, a lame answer. There is a very important news coming on the news channel. So this is what we try to do. I mean, we are leaving the minds with a lot of unanswered questions. The habit of overprotect, it's good. We all as parents, I am a parent too, would love to protect our children. But overprotecting, not even telling them the reality of life. I have seen parents not discussing crime, not discussing rapes, not discussing sodomy, not discussing frauds at home. Why? Because they want to protect their children. They feel that telling them about them is going to basically, they say, bigad jayega. I'll give you an example of our school. A few years back, we arranged for sex education, right from preparatory department to class 12. Now, obviously, what are we going to talk in the preparatory department? All we spoke about was good touch and bad touch. It's an all-girls school. We find it paramount to do it. That each level, the education should be given. When the child becomes a teenager, it's very important to tell the child about her own body. Now, some parents praised it, but we still have some parents who objected with the statement, "आप अभी से ये सब बता देंगी तो बच्चियां बिगड़ जाएंगी." I don't know this has happened in other schools, but I can guarantee it would have. This nature of Indian parent of protecting the children to the extent of shielding them from the reality of life, I believe is the biggest problem. So when we, I don't know if you did or not, but Ganesh ji ko दूध तो सबने पिलाया है, मैंने भी पिलाया है. I could see that the milk is not going into the mouth. I, being a science student, a science graduate, I could see capillary action happening, but I did not have the courage to question my mother. and question everybody else. I couldn't, she asked me, Tumhara piya? I said, haan, piya. Because I was afraid she would say, you have done something wrong that tumhara nahi piya, because that was spread. Jiska nahi piya hai, usne sab kuch to gadbad kiya hai. So it's not, these kind of incidents are happening all the time. You take it as ragging incidents in colleges. I think there is young audience listening to us on Facebook who doesn't know Neville Longbottom of Harry Potter. Why was every prank played on him? Because of his innocence. So innocence is not always a boon, parents. It can lead to very, very gullible adults. So my solution also to this problem will be more school-based and child-based, because that is my area of work. So as ma'am said, ma'am was very, very emphatic and profound in her message, trust no one. But my message is, at the school level, start developing give children a healthy dose of skepticism. Tell them, like I just gave you an example of this story. Through stories, right from the beginning, we can imbibe this habit of not blindly trusting anybody. Whether it is parents, or it is teachers, or it is the support staff in school. We are all girls school. We have to even look into that aspect to keep the children safe. This is very, very important to develop a very healthy dose of skepticism. Question. It's always good to question, as Dr. Singh said. The second point I want to say, and this is a statement which we very commonly hear, that common sense is very uncommon. It is very, very important to trust your common sense. Children, I believe, have wonderful instincts, but we adults kill those instincts. We women have lovely instincts. You know, we could make out from the way a person is looking at us, is the intention good or bad? But parents, they do not encourage this. So what can we do in school? Give them some critical thinking exercises. Let them do some problem solving exercises. Give them a problem. Let them brainstorm. Let them question their peers. Let them question their own minds. So common sense, believe in common sense. The third point which I want to say, and that was also mentioned by Dr. Singh, is reading. Let them read a variety. It is okay to narrate fairy tales to them, but this world is not a utopian world. We are not living in a fairy tale world. Let them read fiction as well as non-fiction, as well as biographies. I'm talking about as the children grow, because they are with us in school from the age of 4 till the age of almost 18. It's a very, very long period, 14 years. And if this step-by-step implementation happens, I'm very sure they can become very confident individuals. So let them read from a variety of, let them read blogs as they grow old, of course. Let them have those debates in class. It is okay to agree to someone, and it is equally okay to not agree to someone. Debating is one exercise, and I'm very, very proud to say that our school has a wonderful debating club, and we indulge in national level debates. We encourage our girls to take sides, to talk about against a motion or for a motion. So these simple exercises which can be inculcated at school level can really help. And why can't debates happen at home? In my home, all the time, debates are happening between me, my husband, and my daughter. Political debates. We all three of us have different political ideologies. It is not that because father is saying I am supposed to, my daughters will agree to something. It is very important to have this healthy concept in the house. An incident happening, something happening in the family also, let children be a part of it. Let them have their views about it. All we need to teach them how to present their views. The problem is we feel that the children are becoming rude and they are overstepping. All we need to do is teach them how to do it in a healthy and a respectful way, being respectful of others. Next very important thing is learning from past mistakes. It is okay to make mistakes. Children are supposed to make mistakes. But important is how do we take those? What do we take from those mistakes? What do we learn from these mistakes? Suppose a child is betrayed once, betrayed twice. That child should get this message very loud and clear that the other person is not trustworthy. I don't know, but April school, in our class, there were just few children who were day in and day out made April Fools. Me too. Every year after year, I was fooled. Because nobody taught me, that if you are being betrayed by a friend, by a group of friends, there is no need to be in that toxic relationship. They are not trustworthy. My grandmother used to say, "Doodh ka jala, mattha bhi phook ke pita hai." That is one message I want to give to all the parents over there. If your child is getting fooled, is being targeted, that means something is somewhere wrong. In the group where he or she is, in the environment where she or he is. Another very important thing which is never stressed in school education system is to teach the child to learn cues from body language. There is a very interesting statement by somebody. The most important thing in a communication is what not said. It's very, very important to train our children to pick up those non-verbal cues, the tones in the voice, the facial expression, reading between the lines. Or for adults, I would say, like when they invest in mutual funds, read the fine print. My next point, which what Dr. Singh also mentioned, avoid being hasty. So I would say, hit the pause button. There is no need to be hasty in taking decisions of your life. There could be some decisions where hastiness is required, but most decisions should be taken with deliberation, giving a proper thought process, doing some research. Jumping into conclusions will only lead to more problems. And one last point I want to say is there are no free lunches in this world. So if something is sounding too good, too utopian to be true, again, read the fine prints. We come across schemes all the time, how are these chit fund schemes getting so much money? Because the gullible people are very insecure by nature. They want instant gratification because they don't have that confidence to question. It's something like they will always follow the bhed chal. So my last point is there are no free lunches. So just to conclude, I would say that our motto should be to educate the children about the reality of the world, not to shield them or blindfold them, and then leave them to face this big bad world later in life. By doing so, we are doing more harm to them than good. So my concluding statement is, Seedha is not equal to acha. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Yes, Devanshi, I'd like to just quickly add a couple of lines before we take question answers. I think the important part, because I was unmuted. Pooja, I think the one last thing that you said, of course, the whole thing was superlatively well intertwined with what we spoke. But the last one, a gullible person is an insecure person. Yes, absolutely, absolutely well, correctly put. There is evidence to show that kids who have a poor self-esteem, am I good enough? The whole thing of, have I done good enough? Am I good enough? So that is the reason why gullibility actually is, like Pooja has put it beautifully well, is the responsibility of parents and school community. So there are, all of us, including Devanshi, you, me, and I don't know how many people. In stage of our life would एक तो जरूर हम पे अप्लाई हुआ होगा कभी ना कभी कहीं पे और उसमें अगर जिम्मेदारी हमारी उसमें जिम्मेदारी पेरेंट्स की है पेरेंट्स की यूं है क्योंकि the home is the foundation. So let me just quickly go over those phrases. We must relate to at least one of them in our life, even today for that matter. I'm incompetent. तुम capable नहीं हो. I'm incompetent. I'm not good enough. I always felt that, I felt maths, I was bad in maths. I really thought I'm really dumb out here. I thought कि पक्का IQ issues है और अब जिंदगी खत्म है अब. ठीक है? I'm not good enough. I will fail. I will fail. I'm foolish. I'm foolish. बिम्बेट होते हैं ना बिल्कुल दिमाग नहीं है जिनके. I'm not listened to. मैं जो बात कहती हूँ लोग सुनते नहीं हैं. I'm a fraud. मैं गलत हूँ. I'm a cheat. I'm the bad one. I feel like a vulnerable child. बच्ची हो तुम, तुम्हारा बचपना नहीं गया. I can't trust myself. I can't trust my own self because I'm not worthy of myself. मुझे अपने बारे में ही trust नहीं है. ये सारी manifestations unknowingly, I still repeat unknowingly, parents कहीं ना कहीं convey करते हैं. Please be careful of that, which means that when a child is having his or her own journey, suppose in a fit of rage you've landed up saying this, apologize. Just make sure you correct yourself then and there. Parents are not gods. हम गलतियां कर सकते हैं, हमको सॉरी बोलने की हमारे में ह्यूमिलिटी होनी चाहिए. उससे आप बच्चे का सेल्फ एस्टीम बढ़ाएंगे और उससे आप जो बच्चे की जो गलबिलिटी. एक लास्ट चीज पूजा मैं कहूंगी, क्वेश्चन देवांशी विल टेक इट अप. the ट्रस्टिंग होना अच्छा है या मिसट्रस्टिंग होना अच्छा है. मेरा फाइनल वर्ड ये है, it's a good thing to be saying that I trust what you have said. When you speak like that, that doesn't mean your mind is saying completely, but verbally when you say something like that, you are conveying to the other person or the universe that I trust what you have said to me. But finally, I trust my own intrinsic flora and fauna. Trust the universe, what it gives you, but and trust yourself to conclude the trust that is being given to you. Be trusting for sure. Don't start with the moment somebody says hi, shake hands, and say, ये तो पक्का antisocial है, क्योंकि mistrusting होना है. नहीं. When he says hi, say, I trust that you said hi to me, but I'll process the hi in my own ways. Devanshi, Pooja, would you like to say any couple of lines, and then we'll take up some questions?
No, I think I totally agree with you. We are not saying anywhere here that stop trusting people. By inherent nature, we are trusting and we should be trusting, but we should not be blindly trusting. So I always say, trust your instinct. And if we develop that instinct in our children, this is also a skill.
Yes.
This is also a skill. If we develop it in our children, no way they will turn into, adults who could be very easily fooled or deceived. It's okay. We all have been fooled once in a while, but again, I say, learning from your mistakes will make you a more confident person.
Absolutely. Yes, Devanshi, any questions, Devanshi, our audience has, or if you want to ask anybody else?
Yes, so I have received one question that how a sibling can be helpful in this situation. Am I
Sibling.
audible?
I lost you in between.
Yeah, so I'm saying that I got a question that how a sibling can be helpful in the situation other than the parents.
With
When I mean, the question is how a sibling can be helpful when they find the other person, the other sibling, gullible.
Ah, okay.
Okay, very good. Good question.
Yes, take it up, Pooja. Sure, go ahead.
Siblings can, so again, I would say that whenever, see, it depends. If the sibling is like in my case, I was the Sida one, my sister was the naughty one, according to my mother. And whenever she found me in this kind of a situation where she could feel that my sister is being fooled or being taken advantage of, she would jump in. So despite the fact that these comparisons were made at home, we were still a closely knit family. The parents entrusted the well-being of both of us into each other's hand. So again, when it comes to relationship between siblings, a lot is dependent on how the parents are developing or nurturing that relationship from the time of the birth of the younger child. Dr. Singh, if you want to add
Makes a
on.
lot of sense. Yes, absolutely, Pooja. Absolutely correct what you said. See, an elder sibling almost is an extension of the parents. It's like exactly what you're saying. We are all intertwined in our family as a system. So also they have the protective approach. Let me deal with it. The sibling, the younger one. Let the younger one figure it out for himself or herself. You are there to assist. You are there also to give a feedback. It's always good to get a feedback. Like we spoke in our today's session when I talked to Pooja, two heads is better than one. It's always good. So if you feel that your sibling is gullible, give your point of view that I felt like this. What do you think? This is my input. So have an active interaction and yet give positive strokes to the younger sibling, saying that you will figure it out what is best for you.
And I have always seen that the siblings love to hear it from each other rather than their parents. I mean, they take the criticism of their brother or sister in a more acceptable way than they would do it to the parents. So this is an advantage of having a close-knit family, I would say.
Absolutely, absolutely. Like I'm suddenly reminded of, she's in her early 40s. I have a client whose mother still calls her "tum to pagli ho." She's a mother of two, and I remember in therapy she would be neutral. I couldn't understand that expression. And after the mother passed away, she actually broke down and said, "I have so much of anger towards my mother for having called me pagli."
For how many
that
years?
that for so many years, all throughout the years. So the inability. So we're looking at the whole, like the dynamics of being gullible. So we are all responsible, and even the
Yes.
child, for that matter, the ability to say this is not okay. this is not okay. The ability to be assertive and stand up for oneself. Yeah.
The whole ecosystem is responsible, actually.
Yes.
The whole ecosystem.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Devanshi,
so another thing is it correct to say that gullibility is a flaw?
Dr. Singh, I think you take this up first.
Okay, let me see what's the question. Yes, Devanshi?
Is it correct to say that gullibility is a flaw?
Gullibility is it's not yet kind of. Flaw means we spoke about it. It's a genetic trait like introversion is, or even narcissism, BPD. Certain genes are passed on. So yes, it's a part of our genetic movement forward. That's one. You said, is it a flaw? It is an aberration. It is something like exactly what Pooja said. It is a social skill. We'll be left behind. We'll be left behind if we don't become street smart, self-preserving. I wouldn't say street smart, self-preserving. So yes, flaw means we get left behind. Yes, we don't progress as per the needs of the society. Yes, Pooja.
I agree with you because it is, nobody is perfect in this world. It is one of our imperfections, but this kind of imperfection can cost us a lot. It can cost us money. It can cost us our safety. It can cost us our self-esteem.
Yeah.
So it is, I think it is something which, but it can be worked upon. It's an imperfection which can be corrected with proper social skills and proper training, I think.
Correct.
And we have one more question, that there is a thin line between trust and gullibility. How to differentiate in these two? I think that's been discussed already.
Yes.
Yes,
We have talked about it.
We have talked about it.
Yeah, but then in short, very simply putting, the thin line between gullibility is that actually a blindfold, and overcoming the gullibility is the blindfold has little holes from where you can see through. That's the best way of the pictorial way that I can describe this to you.
Any other questions? I think that's it. That's all for today, I think. Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Madhumati and Ms. Pooja Kapoor. Thank you so much for joining us. It was a great session.
Thank you. Thanks, Devanshi. Thank you, audience. Thank you, Pooja. Had a great interaction, and hoping to see you again. So let's all empower each other towards being a little more self-preserving and not blindly trusting. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Take care. Bye-bye. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining. Have a nice evening.